I guess is, how do you feel about figures such as the Dalai Lama or say the Pope, who have some aspects of their beliefs and things that they are saying or promoting that as a rationalist we don't think are correct? And then on the other hand are maybe promoting something such as, understanding or peace or environmentalism that are values that as humanists we do support. Do you think, well, okay, we'll argue against that and we won't argue against that? Do you think that anything that they say is illegitimate because they have certain aspects that you don't agree with, or how do you deal with that?
Yes. I think this is an important question of principle and strategy. Do we stand by those who partially say the same things that we do, whereas in their other lives they are doing exactly the opposite of what we do? Now let's take a look at the scale of these people's influence, because that's also a question as an input for strategy. Now, I did say to you that the Dalai Lama doesn't represent Buddhism. I'll tell you why. There are 330 million Buddhists around the world. Buddhism is a religion which started based on the ideas of a man born in Nepal. Then he wandered into India, stayed there and died there. And he did some extraordinary thinking. He was perhaps the first moral philosopher of the world who could do it on the basis of a secular approach. Now the Buddha's greatness has to be appreciated for what it really was. Now here was one who was born in a land which was already speaking in materialist terms. Preceding the Buddha were already the Sankhyas, who declared in great confident assertions that you could not create something out of nothing. Therefore creation was not possible, that everything had to exist always. This was before the Buddha. That means this was a few hundred years before Socrates and the other Greeks who had the naturalistic tradition inaugurated for the West. By the time the Buddha was born, already the idea that the universe was made of matter, an indivisible matter which they call atoms in translation, was a proposal already there for the people, the thinking people, the learned people of that age. The Buddha's greatness was that he, in the context of a developing naturalism, could tell people that this is how you can be honest and good without a God. Because the Buddha did not admit of a God. So his entire right thinking, right acting, right belief and everything had no reference to any God anywhere. Now that's a significant advance in the moral philosophy for the world. He was the first to actually, to my knowledge, to have made that proposal. From the Buddha's life came the religion of Buddhism. He did not establish Buddhism as a religion. He established the commune, but not the religion. From there came Theravada, the Hinayana, came the Mahayana, which took in most of Hindu beliefs about birth, reincarnation and so on. And then you have Vajrayana. So the 330 million Buddhists are distributed amongst the Hinayana, the Mahayana and the Vajrayana. Vajrayana is the school of Tibetan Buddhism. According to the Dalai Lama, there are 6 million of them. So out of the 330 million Buddhists, only 6 million, according to the Dalai Lama, belong to the Vajrayana Buddhism. According to China, only 2.5 million. So the truth would be either this, that, or somewhere in between. The number is very small. The Vajrayana Buddhism has 4 sects. The Dalai Lama belongs to the second largest of the 4 sects, the Gelugpa sect. So he isn't really representing even Vajrayana. So this is one thing. What importance should I give to a Dalai Lama who is not representative of not only all Buddhism but also not of all Vajrayana. When he talks about peace. And what about my credibility as a humanist? And by my, I mean of the humanist movement, which has no political agenda. Should we stand next to the Dalai Lama when we are both speaking of peace but intending different things by it? I think we should not. I think to preserve our moral and intellectual integrity, we should fight for the same causes but not in their company, because they are not meaning what we do when we say peace and cooperation. Secondly, I think by legitimizing the Dalai Lama, and that's not just the Dalai Lama, that's Mother Teresa, that's the Pope, and that's the Islamic leaders, even if they are liberal, it would be too optimistic of us to think that by being with them, we are actually making them better. No. The osmosis works the other way. It is by being with them that our moral intellectual integrity is watered down. I told you what the Dalai Lama did. He picked up a vulnerable, helpless little child to be a tool in his international political agenda. The only difference between him and somebody in prison is the person in prison has been tried, he has not been. If he were tried, he would go to prison, and the others. So I would not want to be fighting this battle with them. You mentioned the Pope. We know that the Catholic Church has been the original Taliban. 400 years ago, what the ISIS is doing today, what in the name of Islam is being done in the Middle East, is exactly what the Church did in the name of Jesus and salvation and the Holy Book 400 years ago. Mind you, ISIS has not reached the levels that the Catholic Church reached. 50,000 witches is the number that the Catholic Church has actually killed, and that's just the women. We don't count the men in this number. ISIS is nowhere near 50,000. Now, if I'm not going to be next to the ISIS, why should I be next to the Pope? Especially when the pedophilia cases that have come out have not brought the moral beings out of them. It's very simple. All institutions, including the humanist ones, are likely to have bad people in them. The test of an institution is when information about something going wrong is revealed. How does that institution respond? If I dare say that any of us here comes to know of a crime of whatever nature but serious, happening within our own control or knowledge, we would decide in favor of bringing the people to justice. When this was revealed in the Catholic Church, the Church, with utmost haste, especially the fellow who resigned and retired, the Austrian, what did he do? He protected the ones who were accused by transferring them to countries with which there is no extradition treaty with the place or the country in whose jurisdiction the crime supposedly took place. This is criminality. I don't think I want to be next to them because I don't believe them. On the other hand, will I work with Catholics? By all means I will. The ordinary Catholic, the ordinary Muslim, the ordinary Christian, the regular Hindu is not who I'm talking about. They are people like us. They just believe that their moral impulses are better fulfilled through their belief system. Mistaken or not, they are not bad people. It's the leaders, the popes and the mullahs, They are the ones we have a problem with, and the Dalai Lama. I have the deepest sympathy to Buddhism than any other belief system, but not his Buddhism. The Buddhism as modernized by Dr. Ambedkar in the 1950s, 40s, where he made it the most secular form of a religion and the most human rights oriented form of a religion. So Hinayana, the lower vehicle, Mahayana, the higher vehicle. He proposed Navayana, the new vehicle. He is also a person born untouchable, but also the principal author, or at least the chairman of the drafting committee of the Indian Constitution. Now, I would think I'm with the human rights people. I do not want to be next to the religious leaders after knowing what they have done. So that's how I justify. I will not say non-cooperation, because it is not cooperation at all. They are seeking legitimacy by being with us. The day the Pope will say, my cardinals have to be arrested for the abuse they have committed on innocent children, I'll be next to him to applaud.